Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad, with breaking news happening that you just found out that we're excited to talk about. But before we get into any of that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who is getting to the age where everything he does is impressive, my dad, Tim.
Really?
Yeah, you know how like toddlers, when they take their first step and talk and eat, it's always impressive. You're getting to that age too, where every step you're going to take is getting impressive. When you complete a full sentence, it's getting to be impressive. You are getting to that age.
Wow. Is this where we're going? A week before Father's Day, and this is where we're going.
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Wow.
Well, okay, Mr. I'm going to burn half the grass on your lawn.
I came over to try to get rid of some of your dandelions.
It was very polite.
And I might have put down too much because there are big brown patches everywhere. I
got into a fight with our lawn company, and so I didn't hire a lawn company this year because I fell back too late. Was I being petty? Yes. Were they being petty? Yes.
Probably not as much as you, but go ahead.
I was annoyed, and I'm not getting into it today. But we were having a lot of dandelions because our neighbors don't treat their lawn, which is perfectly fine, but they have a lot more dandelions, and they found their way into our yard. You were trying to be helpful. I understand.
I burned your lawn so badly. They're huge swatches that look just like dried hay. So I'm trying to...
The sad part is you were on my side with the pettiness until you destroyed my lawn.
Yeah, then I turned. Said you should have just paid him.
I can do it. Don't worry about it. Somebody taught me this. I can get this done. You sprinkle stuff on my yard, and now my yard's brown.
I'm trying to make a comeback. I've resorted, because grass seed didn't take on those patches. I resorted to having to, because I feel bad I destroyed your lawn. So I've resorted to the little things you roll out in water, and grass is supposed to grow.
Yeah.
And we'll see if it happens or not.
The sad part is after you did it and the yard was brown, you came into the house when my wife was there and saying, Kyle, why didn't you just pay for people to do the lawn? Completely turning on me.
Oh, absolutely. I will turn. By the way,
when you said, why are you putting up with this? I can do this.
And
convincing me to fire a lawn company.
Oh, don't blame
and
that
then and then just completely turning on me when my wife is in the room after the yard has been destroyed.
Every father-in-law out there would have done the same exact thing. And this is just giving you more time to sit in the hammock and just tan your life away.
Yeah, I've been out in the yard a lot because I've had to try and fix my yard.
You've been laying in your hammock. You bought a hammock.
It's really comfortable.
I see the kids in it a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not really mine. I 100% bought it for me.
Yeah.
I've gotten to use it twice. And the 2 times I used it, my kids came and flipped me off of it so they could sit in it after 10 minutes. I
wonder where they got that idea from.
Yeah, I know where they got that idea from. But we do have breaking news. You let me know literally before we went on air. It is Tuesday. We record on Tuesday, drop on Wednesday. So this is brand new news that you have recently told me.
And I'm going to just read from the announcement. Point Verde, Florida, the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and Public Investment Fund, not Live Golf, the Public Investment Fund,
which owns Live Golf.
It owns, it finances, whatever, Saudi Arabia, announced the landmark agreement to unify the game of golf on a global basis. The parties have signed an agreement that combines PIF's golf-related commercial businesses and rights, including Live Golf, with commercial businesses and rights of the PGA Tour and DP World Tour into a new collectively owned for-profit entity to ensure that all stakeholders will benefit from a model that delivers maximum excitement and competition among the game's best players.
Which means Koepka won a major, and PGA said we're done with this. I called this.
Well, I think it also ties back to the fact that this was going to be in court for years.
It was.
We're talking trillionaires over in Saudi Arabia. Yes. They could have stayed in court forever.
Because this is the Saudi Arabia royal family.
Yeah. They could have fought this forever. And even as much money as the PGA has, they don't have that much.
No.
So I think right now Moynihan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, is having a meeting with the players as we speak, which I hope he wore a flak jacket because apparently nobody knew about this. This was done behind. Greg Norman was told moments before the deal was signed. Tiger Woods didn't know about it. Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm didn't know a thing about it. So here's my question.
Merger means those players still get paid their money.
You took the words right out of my mouth. So these guys like DJ Johnson and Bruce Koepka and Mickelson got paid millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Now get to keep that and just come and play. If you're Rory or Jon Rahm, who defended the PGA Tour to the hilt, how do you feel?
Fine. PGA already took care of those guys, and they're going to take care of those guys long into the future. Phil Mickelson still has an asterisk on his name. Let's not forget, because the name is still going to be PGA.
It's going to be PGA.
And for somebody like Brooks Koepka, he never said anything bad about the PGA. He's going to get patted on the back and say, listen, I wish I would have done that now. Like, well played. He's going to be welcomed back into golf. I don't think anything comes of this.
I don't think LIV as a structure exists anymore. I think we were talking right before we came on the air that I could see this being where PIF and whatever they call their portion of the world, whether it's PGA World,
It'll just be PGA.
They'll handle the European and the rest of the world, and the PGA Tour will handle America as they always have. Where the RNA...
Listen, I guarantee you part of this merger, because what did Saudi want? Saudi's trying to save change their world image through sports, which is a great way to do it, right? It's a world stage, and what you are just agreed to, what the PGA just agreed to, is a 5th championship will be in Saudi Arabia. Make no mistake, there are 5 majors now.
Well, there already were 5 because people consider the Players' Championship a quasi-major. Will there be?
But it didn't count towards the major.
No, it
count.
didn't. It didn't.
There will now be a 5th major that counts towards the major total, and it will be played in Saudi Arabia.
Part of the time, perhaps.
No.
It may be a traveling one.
No. Why in the world, like you said, Saudi Arabia has more money than anybody. This was run by the royal family. Trillions of dollars are there where they could have fought and just bled the PGA, because with Brooks Koepka, you got me doing this now, because Brooks Koepka winning changed the dynamic of the LIV. I guarantee the LIV was getting more viewership because you want to see Brooks Koepka play on this tour because he just won a major. They're not agreeing to this unless they're getting the TV time, because that's all they wanted. They want to show Saudi Arabia in a different light on a world view, which means you need a golf major championship there on a regular basis to bring tourism in to Saudi Arabia on a regular basis, to show Americans and Saudi Arabians playing together, to get Saudi Arabian golfers, because they get a club pro that gets to play in the major, a part of these majors. This was not agreed to, and we're going to find out more. We're doing this show before we find out more, but this was not agreed to unless a 5th major was included. And if they agreed to this without that, then they failed their goal.
Except that they'll be part of the governing body of golf.
Not the point.
But, so something else that was interesting. I also heard this just moments ago. Secretary of State, I think his name is Belkin, is actually in Saudi Arabia today.
Secretary of State of what?
The United States. Our United States. He's trying to get them to produce more oil. But he's in Saudi on the day this announcement is made. Now, they may be separate deals. However.
But I love conspiracies.
I know you do.
Fun. I know. So wait. Because you said something. I didn't catch it when you first said it. So you're telling me the Secretary of State of the United States of America is in Saudi because he's trying to get them more oil.
And get us more oil.
Right, get us more oil.
because they announced yesterday they were cutting production by 1 million barrels a day.
So they're trying to get us more oil from Saudi.
Correct.
And in that same day, this whole merger happens. Cool.
Correct.
So Saudi Arabia just got a fifth major.
Okay.
For oil.
There is your prediction. You heard it here first. If it happens, it will be right up there with the fact that Russell Wilson was almost a Packer when Rodgers signed the deal. That would be two major predictions that came through on this show.
Just call me Sportstradamus.
Sportstradamus. I'll get you a little wizard's hat if this goes through.
I mixed up Nosferatu and Notre Dame for a second there in my head, so that was the stumble, because I was going to say Sports Naratu, but I'm like, well, that's a different character. No.
Don't explain it. Just let it go.
Sportstradamus.
Okay, just let it go. It's going to be interesting because this is now, when Liv first started, the big thing was this is a way for Saudi to launder some of their money, because the Saudi royal family
never what it was.
Saudi royal family, not exactly some of the best people in the world, let's say.
I mean, we have Americans laundering money. Like, that's just a thing that happens globally. We can't pretend that we're better than anybody else.
Of course we can. But because it's us when we
they just do it out in the
corporation.
Open.
Anyway, so this is a way they're going to be putting in, and make no mistake, the PGA Tour is making billions with this merger, partnership, however you want to call it, because PGA Tour is still going to remain a 501c6 nonprofit. The global, whatever they're going to call this new entity, is going to be for profit.
Yep.
But PGA Tour is going to remain a nonprofit.
Yeah, it's a branch of this now. And they're going to have their own branches in different places. The question is will the European Tour now include Saudi, or will they break off a different tour? How that's exactly going to work?
They already had a tournament over there as part of the European Tour. I didn't see the RNA in this, and I didn't see Augusta in this. I think the fact that Augusta let all the live players play was an impetus for this deal to get done.
I think so. It's a separate deal.
The whole thing
Augusta's not part of the PGA.
No, they're not. They're an
Masters
entity unto
completely
themselves.
Separate.
Yeah, they're an entity unto themselves. They made the decision not to ban players, which I think was the right decision.
Yep. It's in the same way the British Open has nothing. Either does the U.S. Open has nothing to do with the PGA.
True.
The only thing that has, I don't even think the
RNA runs a British
PGA
Open.
Championship doesn't have anything to do with the PGA, as we just learned.
No,
it's its own separate thing.
Correct.
The only thing that has to do with it is, I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called the FedEx Championship, whatever it's called now.
At the end of the year, I think it still is FedEx.
Yeah. That's the only PGA Championship tour that you have. None of the Masters have anything to do with the PGA.
You've got the Tour Championship, but this is going to be interesting on a global level to see the fact that now there is one ruling body in all of golf throughout the world. And
this doesn't include Asia.
Sure it does. DP World Tour handles Asia.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think this is going to be now one universal world tour.
Wow.
Here's one change I would like to make, because we've got the Ryder Cup coming up this year in Italy.
Yeah.
In Rome this year. I would like to see, and then they also have President's Cup.
I wanted to see PGA versus Liv, but that's not a thing anymore.
Not happening. So you got the President's Cup and you have the Ryder Cup. What I would like to see is, okay, the U.S. plays in both. I think they should make, like, the Ryder Cup is the crowning event. The President's Cup, you play the world versus the European Tour. And then they play in the Ryder Cup. And then if the U.S. loses, they have to go and play in the President's Cup the next year. So that it's not.
So the champion gets a bye every single year.
Yes. Well, the Ryder Cup is every 2 years.
Right.
Two of them will play year after year. I just think it would be a better way to go, because then the Ryder Cup.
That means that the President's Cup is played opposite of the Ryder Cup every single year.
No. Because right now, the Ryder Cup is the United States versus Europe.
Right.
And the President's Cup is the United States versus the world.
Right.
I think the Ryder's Cup should be the crowning jewel.
Right.
But instead of just having the U.S. play Europe every year, give the world a chance to compete to play in the Ryder Cup. So on the off year, when the President's Cup happens, for the first time, it could be Europe versus the world to see who plays in the Ryder Cup the next year, or the U.S. versus the world. Winner gets to play in the Ryder Cup the next year.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Wasn't what you said.
President's Cup and the Ryder's Cup is on alternating years.
It didn't sound that way.
And the President's Cup.
You said that very badly.
Maybe.
I just think it would be interesting. That
would be interesting.
I would like to see, because number one, I don't think it's fair that it's just the U.S. versus Europe and then U.S. versus the world. Let the world play Europe once in a while.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good event. You know me. I'm as American as.
Here's the thing, though, is what you're going to run into is the United States is such a huge TV market for golf that if the U.S. isn't in the Ryder Cup, nobody's watching the Ryder Cup, and especially if the U.S. isn't playing in a Ryder Cup that's in the United States, nobody's going to the Ryder Cup.
I think you'd have to adjust that the Ryder Cup if it's the world versus Europe.
But it's such a big event. I mean, remember when it came to Wisconsin, it was years in the making.
I understand that. They're all a couple years in the making. I just think it'd be an interesting twist on it.
It would be, but you have to be prepared for a U.S.-based tournament with no U.S. players in it.
Still getting the best golfers in the world. I think it might be interesting.
It might be. It would make the President's Cup more interesting for sure.
Correct, because the President's Cup is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup's been around. It started in the early 20th century, so it's got a lot of history to it.
You know more about it than I do. You've been there since the beginning.
No, I was not. Not even close.
But make no mistake, I want to make sure my prediction is not my prediction. This is going to happen. So there is now a fifth major championship, and I think that's good for golf too, because you're creating a new era as well, where people can catch Jack a lot easier now because your prime gets an extra championship. Can you imagine if there's a fifth major championship when Tiger was playing? He would have owned the record, and you'd have to hold it against just like you do with rushing records, right? In 12 games, Jim Brown owns the record. In 14 games, it's the dude from the Rams that I can never remember his name.
Eric Dickerson.
There's a 16.
It could be. Look, the senior PGA Tour already has 5 majors.
Yeah.
So could another one be added?
And it will be.
They make them up as they go. So
it will be the Saudi, whatever they want to call it.
Time will tell.
And time always proves me right. Another thing time has proved me right on. This should just be pretty much everything on our list of conversation today is things I've been right about. So,
well, then I should just leave.
This is a Kyle. No, because I need you here to look silly that you were wrong in situations. Some of these you weren't even wrong on. I was just right. But the Commanders, this happened a few weeks ago. We just haven't talked about it on the show yet. We have other things to talk about. But the Washington Commanders of the NFL were denied their trademark for Washington Commanders.
Thank the Lord, the Commanders' name is on short timer syndrome.
The question comes into play. Okay, they're denied their trademark, which simply means they can still make money off of it, but it simply means that everybody can make money off of it. They were denied the trademark, so you and I can now print Washington Commanders shirts and make money off of that, and they can't say anything about it. It's not a trademark name.
So that name will not last. If you're a team, why would you ever do that?
I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't. You absolutely wouldn't.
So now my suggestion is to the new owners of the Washington football team, which I still think is a cool name, by the way.
I do too.
Get with the Native American nations in your area and come up with a name that honors their tradition and bring back the old logo.
Oh, this is interesting. Why they lost their trademark. I hadn't seen this before. They lost the trademark to the name Commanders because of the likelihood of confusion with the Commanders Classic, which is the Army Air Force game every single year.
I didn't know that, but good.
I didn't either. And then the Washington Space Commanders and Washington Wolf Commanders are two of several trademark applications sent in by McCauley that have helped lead to this denial. Oh, so that other guy that keeps taking trademarks, keeps sending them in, got it, and that's adding to this. Huh.
I just want to see their old logo come
Space
back.
Commanders would have been an interesting name.
You know what they would have been called? They would have been called the Space Cadets.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a dumb name. I've said for how long now? Washington football came up and I instantly loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I instantly loved it. Everybody's like, this is dumb. I said, that is the greatest name you can have. It's a slap in the face to the name changer, so Snyder got his last laugh, right?
Correct.
But you don't need a name. We are the Washington football team. My thought is, and I've mentioned this in other shows, go back to Washington football team and bring back the old logo and make sure you tell the story of how that logo came to be.
And because it's a very important story to be told, give the background on why you and I both support, and we aren't racist by any means. We just support the Native American tribes throughout the country.
No.
We don't want their history to be erased.
Correct.
That logo is part of the history.
I've never understood how Native American symbols were considered offensive.
I don't know.
I haven't got, because they got rid of ours in high school. I didn't understand why that was offensive. I don't understand why this one was offensive. This was created by a Native American chief who went up, by the way, to the Redskins and the owners and said, I would like to design your logo. And he is the one, the Native American chief, I don't know what tribe, but he went into and designed the logo. And that's the logo they used to honor the Native American tribes in Washington, because that's who designed it.
Correct. And Redskins, everybody gets a bad image of it because it's always in all the cowboy movies that they call them Redskin. It's a derogatory term.
Wasn't originally a derogatory
term. Originally they were called Redskins, and the Native Americans were not offended by it because they put red clay on to keep them.
Right. Most of them weren't. It's like the name.
Mosquitoes.
It's like the name Indians for the Cleveland Indians was actually there to honor the fact that they had 3 Indian players on their team. And so like one of the players was like, we should just call ourselves the Cleveland Indians. And so they changed the name to the Cleveland Indians because they were proud of the fact that they had 3 Native American players on their team.
Nobody knows that.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the history of anything. And that's why people just go with whatever headlines out there. But go back to the Washington football team and you bring back that logo. That's the classic logo.
Correct. By the way, the Redskins logo was designed by Blackfeet Chief, Two Guns. Let's see. It says here I may be getting his name wrong, but Two Guns White Cap was his name. But he was a Blackfeet chief, and he approached the Redskins and said, I want to design your logo.
Yeah.
So don't tell us that there's something even remotely racist about that logo. Native Americans would be very proud of it.
Yeah, I don't even know how you can see that. And I think wanting to name your team after, like, it's like the South Dakota Sioux. Like the Sioux tribe freaked out when they changed it.
Florida State Seminoles.
The Illini brought back Chief Illinowick to their games because the Illinowick tribe said, bring him back.
Correct.
We don't care who plays him. Like, bring back Chief Illinowick. This is ridiculous.
And I love the story of the Indians. And if the Cleveland Indians would have stood up and said, look, this is why we did this. Don't just give in. Fight for what's right. And in this case, fight for the fact that the Redskins logo doesn't berate Native Americans. It honors them.
Right. Go back. If you're the Cleveland Indians, you go back and find out what tribe those 3 players were from and change your team to that tribe's name and make them a big part of your team going forward.
Exactly.
Pretty simple. Don't erase the history of the people that were here. I mean, you want to talk about a culture in America that's gotten erased. It is 100% the Native American culture in the United States. And we need to remember the fact that they were here for a long time. And we need to honor the fact that they're right there with us. They're Americans right there with us.
And we need to stop feeling, what's the right term? We need to stop feeling sorry for other groups that we're not a part of.
Right. Right. Don't be offended by things that have nothing to do with you.
Correct. correct.
I think is what you're trying to say.
Thank you for saying it much better than I did.
You're welcome.
Because I was
But when I found out those two stories, it blew my mind. Especially the logo was created by a Blackfeet chief. Like, what are we talking about here? But go back to Washington football team. But just the start of this story, the Commanders are clearly going to be no more.
when the new ownership takes over, we'll have a name change. I'm with you. I just make it the Washington football team.
Call
I
it
think
there.
it's a great name.
Nobody else has it. You trademark it. You're the Washington football team. You bring back the old logo, and you call it a day.
I don't care if they put the old logo on one side and put that W, which I do think is kind of a cool W, on the other side, or put it on the uniform. It'd be great. But
Bring back the old logo.
bring back
Honor the old logo.
Exactly.
Riggin said it best. Do not put my name on anything Commander. I am not a Washington Commander. I'm a Washington Redskin. And keep it the way it is.
Well said. Did you hear what LSU is doing, keeping on football?
No.
Their team this year, and they play in Louisiana where it's really hot.
Is that where Louisiana State plays? Is Louisiana?
You know,
There are no Tigers there, though.
I don't know about that. Anyways, they're going to be wearing air-conditioned helmets for their Tigers.
Excuse me?
They're going to have air-conditioned helmets. I don't know.
How does that work?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to have little rectangular things on the side, but they found a way that they can air-condition helmets, and LSU is going to be sporting those this year. Here's my question, though. And you played football. I didn't. But in talking to some other guys who played football, they said they may not like it because football helmets are hard to put on when they're cold. They slip on much easier when they're kind of sweaty and the game is going
Yeah,
on.
you want your hair to be a little sweaty. Otherwise, it hurts the first time you put it on.
And these are going to be air conditioned.
The toughest part of the season in training camp, putting on the pads multiple times. Unveiled new air-conditioned helmets for the 2023 season and shared a video on social media, blah, blah, blah. Combine the helmets, Tiger Air, Louisiana-based company that delivers revolutionary airflow acceleration technology for hard hats and football helmets.
If it works, it's going to change football in the South. Because if you're a player and you can wear them comfortably and not be...
Defensive lineman Mika Wingo says that it feels good. Tight end Mac Markway. I was going to say, that's cruel parents. Mac Markway said it's good. I ain't sweating.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if it lasts. If it really works really well and the players are more comfortable,
How do they power it?
I have no idea. Imagine there's a way to run cool water through there, or
Oh, it delivers revolutionary airflow acceleration technology. So I don't know if these are actually air conditioned then.
well,
I don't know. I'd have to watch the video. I can't right now, though.
we're going to have to check it out and see.
We're going to check more about it. And you let us know if you know more about this, because now I'm curious how this is going to work, because I'm pretty sure a player is going to get electrocuted at some point.
No, they're not.
Sure, they are.
No, they're not.
You get a hit to the head, because you need wires to run this thing if you need airflow, right? Either a battery or wires or something. And you get a big old hit, and that wire breaks.
They are not going to get electrocuted.
That wire
That's
falls out.
silly.
The battery power is still running
That's
to it. It's
silly.
going to touch wet hair, and you're going to electrocute a player.
It's silly.
That's what I see
That's
happening.
silly. Yes, because your mind always goes to those kinds of things.
Well, I mean, how does that not? This is going to run through electricity somehow. To have air conditioning, you need power. You're not going to use gas power. That sounds dumb. So you're going to use electric power, either through a battery or something.
I don't know. It's
So-
just gonna be, I didn't bring it up for that. I
If
just
a wire breaks,
Oh my God. You
Uh,
need to stop watching conspiracy theories. This
this
not,
isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a real concern because there are wires in there, and somebody's going to get electrocuted by this.
No, they're not.
Somebody at some point is going to be electrocuted by an air conditioning helmet. That's always been the argument from before. You can't put a fan in there. You're going to electrocute somebody because their head gets wet and sweaty.
They're playing
This
with,
can't be real air conditioning.
I don't know.
It can't be.
Leave it to you to take a nice story about a team doing something for their players and twist it into the fact that players are going to get electrocuted.
I mean, how could they not?
I'm sure they figured it out.
I need to see how these helmets actually work because I'm 99% sure somebody's going to get electrocuted at some point. This isn't going to work. Hold on. You let us know what you think in the comments below, and please tell me how these players aren't going to be electrocuted. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
I sent you a Twitter video.
Yeah.
Of what it's really like to catch 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah.
Did you look at that?
I did. You better put it where my glove is.
That's what I said when I was catching it. You better hit my glove because if you don't, I'm a dead man.
I mean, that just shows you how hard it is to hit a baseball.
I was never that great a catcher. I caught one guy in my life that could throw 100 miles an hour.
Chuck Finley.
Chuck Finley.
I've heard this story several times in my life. The only reason I know who Chuck Finley is.
He was married to Tawny Katane.
I don't know who that is.
She was in Bachelor Party.
I don't know what that is.
She was in, I think, a Whitesnake video.
I don't know what that is.
Doesn't matter. Anyways, Chuck Finley could throw.
He was in a video with a white snake.
It was the name of a group from the 80s. Big hair band.
Oh.
Chuck could throw in excess of 100 miles an hour.
It's crazy.
In Class A. I mean, he just dominated. The ball, I mean, I caught guys that could throw low 90s, maybe 92, 93, and I could handle that. This was a whole different level because he threw a ball that moved, and these guys are doing it on a regular basis. It's just, don't ever say that these guys, the hand-eye coordination they have to have, even to catch a ball,
right? It's
just off the charts.
There's a 12-year-old that could throw 90 miles per hour, or 100 miles per hour, I'm sorry. Consistently hitting 97, 98 in the gun.
I'm sure his parents are going to let him throw a curveball, and by the time he's 15...
No, he already played. He played in the 90s.
I don't know who it is.
Played for the Cubs. He had an injury on his arm.
Oh, yeah.
His tendons got too tight, and all of a sudden he could whip the ball.
You mean the movie?
Rookie of the Year.
Can't believe that.
Gary Busey was a pitcher for the Cubs, too. The Rocket.
You've let the show just go down several levels.
I mean, the fact that I had to go that far for you to understand that I was making that up.
I was actually talking about real sports and was not thinking about
that was real sports. Listen, when I was a kid, that's all I had for hopes of a Cubs World Series.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know what to tell you here.
So anyway,
speaking of baseball, though, I was right about something else because this show is titled "Kyle is Right." Maybe I'll make that the thumbnail. Kyle was right today.
Yeah, first time.
Most of the time, it just takes time for people to realize I was right because, time tells all. But Steven Strasburg's career is over. For those of you who don't know who Steven Strasburg is, he was the most highly touted pitcher recruit since whatever his name for the Yankees in the 90s that never even made it to the pros. But very highly touted recruit, probably actually since Mark Pryor. Number 1 overall pick for the Nationals the year after Bryce Harper was drafted. Came into the league, was famously protected in a playoffs. They wouldn't let him pitch in the playoffs because they had him on account because they never wanted to hurt his arm. Well, now he's probably done. He had another arm injury. They're finding out he has nerve damage,
which shows you
probably done.
You never know when your next pitch could be your last pitch, so they should have let him pitch in that World Series.
Well, they pitched in the World Series. They were out in the first round.
Fine. He probably would have gotten to the World Series if he pitches in that playoff series.
That good.
He had surgery. He was recovering from it. Let him pitch. Let him play. Ride that horse all the way to the World Series because you never know if you're going to get back. Now, the Nationals did get back, and they won a World Series.
They did, but here's the crazy part. Since the World Series, I think they won in 2019, right? It was 2019. Since 2019, when he signed a big contract, that was a contract year. So the Nationals signed him to a massive long-term contract. He has pitched about 50, I think it was 53 and 1/3 inning was the actual number. That's it.
And that contract he signed is all guaranteed.
All of it. Well, it's not, I guarantee it's not insured either because this guy's been hurt his entire career. What insurance company is going to...
They wouldn't insure the team, then the team just takes the risk.
They're going to have to pay that out because most big contracts have insurance policies on them. That's why they have guaranteed money because they get insurance policies on players, but there's nobody in the world that would have.
Strasburg has
Put
been
an
hurt
insurance
since he
policy on
came
this.
up. He's just had arm issues. He had surgery.
What's proof to me? Let pitchers pitch.
Right.
What have I always been saying? Let pitchers pitch as soon as they come up because you don't know how long they're going to last.
And more importantly,
Holding people back is a joke.
teach them how to pitch so they have the right mechanics and they have the right ability.
Yeah,
You don't have to throw 100 miles an hour with every pitch.
No, and well, Strasburg wasn't that player. Strasburg could actually pitch. That's what made him so good. He was prototype pitcher. He was Mark Pryor. He was everything you wanted in pitcher. He was tall. He had great mechanics. He could throw several pitches. He was everything you wanted. But his body just wasn't built to last. And now he has permanent nerve damage in his arm. He's never going to play again. I mean, if he comes, I don't know how in the world he could come back from this. He definitely won't be a starter again. He'll be in a reliever role at maximum if he ever pitches again, which again,
he'll do a Kerry Wood.
He won't.
No, he won't. Not with nerve.
He won't ever pitch again. And so you wasted a guy's career, a guy who could have been a Hall of Fame pitcher in the same way Tim Lincecum should be a Hall of Fame pitcher. You wasted his career. You didn't let him actually pitch in his prime. You protected him so much that he never got to live up to his potential at a major league level. And now he's going to have nothing but regrets because
he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
He's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have any Cy Youngs. He doesn't have anything to his name because you protected him for so long.
Something has changed, and I don't know what it is. I'm not being this old guy, but I just look at the guys who pitched back in the day, and I'll use Warren Spahn as a classic example. 363 wins. And he was asked about it one time about how he pitched so much. He said, look, we were out throwing balls from the time we were little kids, 7 years old, or 7 o'clock in the morning until dusk.
Right.
Essentially, we're always throwing and throwing. And he said, when I'd get done pitching, I'd ice it, and I'd run it off the paint the next day, and I was ready to pitch again by the time it was my time to come up. They don't do that. These guys are so overly trained in some cases that their arms just can't take it, and they're pitching and only pitching from the time they're whatever. Let kids play other sports.
Here's the issue: is you need your body to develop around that. Here's a big thing: is you need the muscles to grow. The problem is if you look at a perfect mechanic on how to throw a baseball, it's a lot of joints. You're including a lot of joints into that throwing arm, and your joints aren't going to handle it. You really have to make sure. And plus, people are built different. So perfect mechanics for me looks very different than perfect mechanics for a guy who's 6'6" and his arms built different. You have to throw the way that you're comfortable. And again, you have no idea how long these people are going to last.
There is no perfect way to throw. Throw the way that God lets you throw, and just build around that. You see all these different guys, pitchers, Bob Gibson, Warren Spahn, Greg Maddux.
Right.
You know, each pitcher is different, but let them develop in their own way. And for God's sakes, parents, don't let your kids throw a curveball until they're 15 or 16 years old.
The issue is the agents in this at this point more than anything, because his agent is Scott Boras.
Scott Boras, yeah.
And Scott Boras can make a lot of money off of potential. So in my opinion, they knew Strasburg. He knew Strasburg was damaged goods. He knew Strasburg was getting hurt. So he's like, we're going to protect this kid, get him to the next paycheck. And he finally got that big paycheck. They let him go, and he can't pitch anymore. He pitched 200 innings once and then was never healthy again. This kid should have never made it to the next contract. That's why they protected him. But at the same time, you protected him so much and had him sit so much that his joints got tight. And that's it. Who knows what he could have been if you just would have let him pitch.
But they don't do that. They're in the training room, and
it bugs me a lot.
It bugs me too.
This kid could have come up and been Tim Lincecum. He could have had 5 years where he won multiple Cy Youngs, where he would have had MVP votes, where he would have been remembered forever. And now nobody knows who he is.
No, I remember when his rookie baseball card came out. Everybody ever had to have it, and now
it's nothing.
Worth nothing, and it won't be worth anything.
No. You have a kid. What career? Let me ask you this, and this goes for anybody, and I want opinions in the comments below. If you could have anybody's career, would you rather have Tim Lincecum's career, where it's 5 years burning bright, and then you're out of the league in 10 years? That's all you get. You don't get that next really big contract because your arm burns out. You still make a lot of money, but you don't make nearly as much as you could have. Or would you rather have Steven Strasburg's career, who he got two massive paydays. Two massive paydays for contracts that's going to be paid out. But nobody will ever remember you even played Major League Baseball.
I wonder if Strasburg looks back and goes, well, I've got the money.
That's what I'm asking you. Which career would you rather have?
Warren Spahns? I'd take Lincecum. Just let me pitch.
All day. You're telling me I get 2 Cy Youngs? You're telling me I get MVP votes? You're telling me I get a World Series MVP and 2 rings?
Lincecum will be remembered
To be fair, Strasburg was the World Series MVP.
He was. But Lincecum, I think, will be remembered long past Strasburg.
Forever. He will be remembered forever as great. He will be remembered forever as one of the greatest giant pitchers to ever walk on the planet. Steven Strasburg will always be what if.
His number will be retired in Washington.
No, it won't.
I think it will.
No, it won't.
Of course it will.
Why would you retire a pitcher in Washington that's had one good year?
Because he won you a World Series.
He didn't win you a World Series. You had a lot of players on the team.
Won the MVP? Yes. He will. His number will be retired.
Yeah. No.
Washington.
No.
What are we going to bet?
I don't know. That you make the lawn go back to normal?
That's cold and cruel.
There's no way his number is retired in Washington. He had one good season. He had one season where he pitched over 200 innings and then never pitched again.
Mark the video.
There's no way they retire his number.
Mark the video.
They haven't retired Pedro Martinez's number yet.
That's in Boston.
That's in the Expos who moved to Washington.
They won't.
Part of that franchise.
If I think Pedro Martinez, yes, he had good years with the Expos, but I think of him as a Red Sox.
Who was better player for that franchise, Pedro Martinez or Steven Strasburg? Pedro Martinez was the better player.
But they don't. That's another example. Washington will not honor the Expo players.
Which is fine. Don't.
Well, he shouldn't. Here's a question. I mean, should they honor Andre Dawson?
They don't.
They don't.
He got the greatest. They got the greatest honor of all time with him. He's in the Hall of Fame with an Expo cap for some reason.
Should be as a Cub.
I agree. But that's not the point. Steven Strasburg's number will not be retired. It's a travesty if you retire Steven Strasburg's number.
I guarantee
he wasn't even a huge fan favorite. You better retire Bryce Harper's number before you retire Steven Strasburg's number. Why would you retire Bryce Harper's number? He wasn't on the World Series team. He left for Philadelphia before they won a World Series.
He came up. I just think they're going to. Strasburg for sure will be retired. They may not retire Harper's, but they will retire Strasburg.
You retire Josh Hamilton's number in Texas before you retire Strasburg's number in Washington. That's a waste of a retired number. He didn't do anything. You never let him pitch a game.
He won a World Series.
That's the only year you let him pitch. They never let him pitch. And then by the time they were finally going to let him pitch, his arm was done.
Was he the MVP in the World Series?
He was. You didn't know that until I literally just told you.
But he was. And he will have his number
retired. This is why you hold back information in arguments, because it gets used against you, and it's not fair. They will not retire his number, but you let us know if you think they'll retire his number in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. One other thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Does the NBA know what the word loyalty means?
Why does that sound like a loaded question?
You have in the NBA championship coaches, right? They've won NBA championships, hit the pinnacle.
Budenholzer in Milwaukee.
Nick Nurse in Toronto.
Now in Philadelphia.
And who was it in 2020? Frank Vogel in 2020 with the Lakers.
Now the coach of the Phoenix Suns.
3 championship coaches in the last, 3 out of the last 4 years, championship coaches have all been fired by their teams.
First rule of being hired as a manager or a head coach is the day you're hired is one day closer to you being fired.
It's crazy to me. You look back in your day, you win a championship, and you're there for as long as you want.
That's not true.
You've hit the pinnacle.
Not true.
That is true.
Not true. Sparky Anderson got fired by the Cincinnati Reds, who he led to one of the greatest dynasties of the 70s. And then he went on to coach.
Sparky Anderson
managed in Detroit and got them to a World Series.
Sparky Anderson didn't make it to the postseason 2 years in a row before he got fired. He won in 76.
Yes. And he had
didn't make the postseason in 77.
He got fired
didn't
with
make the postseason in 78.
And he had a 92-win season the year he got fired.
Yeah, but he didn't make the postseason.
That's because they did it right back then, and you had to win your division in order to get into the playoffs.
They did. Only 2 divisions.
Correct.
That was it. 2 divisions.
Any case.
But, I mean, you can't say that he...
Look at football. Mike McCarthy, granted, he coached for several years after he won the Super Bowl.
Several years.
You're going to get fired as a head coach. I think the NBA...
Besides Sparky Anderson, because I agree. I think that's a joke that there had to be something else going on with that situation, because he didn't make the postseason 2 years in a row, but that was a spoiled franchise at that point.
Billy Martin got fired after he won a World Series by
That
George
doesn't count.
Steinbrenner.
Yeah, he was fired 20 times and hired back the next day. George Steinbrenner fired Billy Martin more than he's hired managers in his career as an owner.
It was part of the fun.
It doesn't count. The same way as Jimmy Johnson doesn't count, by the way.
He got fired after winning a Super Bowl.
He did, but that was 2 best friends having a hissy fit over who was responsible for the Super Bowls.
A hissy fit that lasted almost, 25 years?
Still lasting right now. Publicly, they made up. Those 2 still don't talk to each other. That was Jerry Jones getting pissed off because Jimmy Johnson was getting credit for all the Super Bowls, and he wanted to prove that he could win Super Bowls without him. And guess what? He hasn't.
I was going to say, how's that worked out for him? He is a terrible general manager.
That should have been Jimmy Johnson winning that 3rd Super Bowl, because that was Jimmy Johnson's team that was going to win anyway.
The Barry Switzer one.
Yeah. He would have won that anyway. And then he would have been moved to the front office and been a part of that team, and they would have won throughout the 90s into the 2000s.
Or you could just have mismanagement and you let a Super Bowl winning coach leave to go to a different franchise, and you hire somebody never should have been a head coach. And we go through years of
Mike Holmgren. Yeah, that's another hissy fit. Again, okay, maybe my argument's a little bit off today.
It's a little weak.
But it surprises me, though. Mike Budenholzer fired after 2 years. Frank Vogel was fired after 2 years.
Budenholzer was there for 5.
No, after 2 years with the championship. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
He wins the championship in 2021, fired in 2023. Frank Vogel wins in 2020. He is fired in 2021. You have
Vogel won in the
Nick Nurse, who was fired, I think, in 2021 as well. Vogel won it, and people give LeBron credit for that, not Frank Vogel.
Well,
but they haven't won since Vogel's been gone.
True.
And the bubble, you're right, doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Nick Nurse was blessed by Kawhi being there for sure. Mike Budenholzer, on the other hand, he was blessed by Giannis being there, and a size too big on Kevin Durant's shoe.
Half size. A toe bigger.
But it's interesting. So is the head coach, I guess, then? The question becomes, is the head coach as important as we think it is?
Yes, because but maybe not for the X's and O's unless you've got a team that just, you're making a change because they weren't playing the right way. Most of the time, a head coach, they're the psychologists. They're the motivators.
We have Spoelstra, who's not that. He is in every single way. But he's an X's and O guy, too.
He's an X's and O guy that puts in the offense like Phil Jackson was, who put in the triangle wherever he went. But he's also, you got to be, especially with the NBA, you have to be a master motivator. You have to be a psychologist who knows what buttons to push and when to put foot on the gas and when to back off. Spoelstra is an expert at that. Probably one of the best of all time at that.
So do NBA teams care about the X's and O's then? Are the X's and O's, do you look at a head coach because of his ability to coach?
Sure. Yes, but it's more than just coaching. You look at the Bucks new hire, Adrian Griffin. He's going, a big part of his job is going to be to get along with Giannis and work with the front office, hopefully to make the changes they need to make. If you go in standing pat with the team in Milwaukee they have now, I don't think they get to the finals next year.
So is that Mike Budenholzer's fault?
No, but I think Mike Budenholzer kind of lost the team. He wasn't motivating him like the way he was when they won the championship.
He didn't react well when Giannis got hurt.
No, he made some really bad choices.
But his brother had also just died.
True.
But then he shouldn't have been there. You can't focus on the game.
Very true. Tough. It's tough because I mean, your brother dies, you think you're going to cut some slack. But
Down in the playoffs.
This is big time sports.
You're going to be there. I've always thought that about work. If you're going to be at work, you need to be at work.
Correct.
If you can't be at work, then don't be at work. Like, go take care of what you have to.
And then come back when you're ready.
That's not an excuse. It's interesting, though, to see because it really is 4 out of the last, and we're not including 2023 that's going on now. But if you go 19, 20, 21, and 22 championship coaches, 3 of those coaches have been fired.
Which, by the way, Denver and Miami tied 1 game apiece.
Yeah, Miami came back in a big way.
It's going to Jimmy time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great finals. The hockey finals may be over early. As much as I would have liked to have seen Miami step up and really give Las Vegas a run for their money, they've been destroyed.
I have a question on that. What the hell is with the Vegas Knights uniforms at home?
They're interesting, aren't they?
Mustard orange. Those are the ugliest things I have ever seen on a professional sports team.
I think they're supposed to be gold.
They're not.
No, they're mustard.
Those are mustard. Those are as mustard can get, and they are hideous. Before we go on to Dad's last word, I do have a trivia question for you.
Ask away.
What are the 2 days in the entire year where the NFL, NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball do not play? There's 2 games in the year where you do not have an NFL, NBA, MLB, or NBA game.
New Year's Day?
Nope. They play New Year's Day all the time. Football plays New Year's Day.
Yeah, that's true.
Basketball plays New Year's Day.
Used to be a day in March, like March, whatever.
You have playoffs.
Playoffs where?
In March?
There's still regular season.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
There's 2 days?
2 days.
I've got nothing.
So you have 2 of the 4 major sports about to end, right?
Yeah. Basketball
And you have one that doesn't start until September, right?
Football.
So you only have one sport going on in the summertime.
Correct. Oh, probably during the All-Star break.
The day before and the day after the All-Star break.
Wow.
It's the only 2 days that you don't have games for the 4 major sports.
I had never thought about that, but you're right. So we'll have to come up with some show ideas for that day.
I guess we will. But I think you and I have had a really good show. And as always, you cannot have a conversation with your dad without him getting the last word. So it is all you.
So you know how much I love tennis. Always have. I was so disappointed in the fans at the French Open. The Ukrainian women's player, Alana Svetlana, sorry if I butchered your name.
Good try.
Made it clear before the tournament started that she would not shake the hands of anybody from the Russian Federation because of the ongoing war. Everybody knew about it. Nobody pretended not to know about it. She had to play Daria Kasatkina, if I'm saying that right, from Russia. Daria did the right thing. She played the match. She lost in straight sets. And after the match, didn't attempt to shake her hand, but gave her a thumbs up. And I thought that was a classy thing to do. It's her way of going. And Daria has been very open about the fact she does not agree with the war in Ukraine. She's been an outspoken opponent of it. So she did the right thing and gave a thumbs up, and she walked off the court. The French Open fans just turned on her and booed her incessantly, booed her off the court. Daria, after, was really upset about it because she's like, I've been against this war. I knew she didn't want to shake my hand, and I respect that. That's why I gave her a thumbs up as a congratulations for the match. Shame on you, French Open fans. If you're going to go there, at least know what's going on in the world around you before you just boo somebody off the court. Daria should have been cheered off the court for showing as much class as she did in losing to Ilana. So there's my rant. Well done, Daria.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's know who's there, because this is a player that is from Russia and a Russian player who is outspoken against the war, putting herself in danger for doing so.
Absolutely.
Understands her opponent doesn't want to shake hands with a Russian player, and understands why.
Yeah, and respects it.
Because not many Russian players at least in past, have been willing to do that. They still would have gone up to the net. They still would have held out their hand and made the other opponent stick to their word.
Right.
Didn't do that. Just stayed on the side of the court, gave her a thumbs up to say good game, and then walked off the court. I agree. She should have been cheered, and if the French fans would have been paying attention, we cannot label people because of where they're from. We can't, because here's a woman who has been on the side, who showed a lot of respect and restraint even after losing, and she has every right to be upset. I will tell you, pause here, Daria, for being a great human being.
Shame on you, French fans.
I agree.
Shame on you.
I agree. Well, hey, you and I have had an awesome show. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in and watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.